Hello, 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 beautiful people. Welcome to Rootbound, the podcast, not about plants. Welcome to episode 4. And I've previewed, talked about, suggested that this was going to be a future episode, and we're doing it today. Today's episode is called Choosing Yourself. And I've talked about this on a couple Instagram lives that I've done to promote the episodes that have come out, as well as previous episodes, because I think this is really important. Choosing yourself. And again, I'm talking about being laid off. You may be experiencing something completely different, but choosing yourself is really important. So let's get into it. Let's understand why. Because that might seem, choose myself. I'm doing that. I do that. So why does it have to be a full episode? Well, I believe that we don't do that. It's, we have a society that says if you choose yourself or if you put yourself in the forefront, you're selfish, you're egotistical, or you're possibly a narcissist. And so there's these like super extreme ideas and associations when it comes to thinking of yourself. I see it as a spectrum, and I'm not saying you think of yourself above everybody else, but I am saying you think of yourself first. You choose yourself. So let's explore how I did that as it pertains to being laid off. So when I heard the news that I got laid off, I spoke about this a little bit. I got one of 3 reactions from people. All I will say I appreciate now, but in the moment I did not. Let's talk about the 3. One was shock. Oh my gosh, they laid you off? That's going to be a super loss for this company. How dare they? They're going to lose so big. You're such a talented person. That's one reaction that I got. The second, oh, you're so talented. You're so skilled. You're going to land somewhere wonderful. This is just going to be a little bump in the road. You're going to keep climbing. You got so much to offer the next company you're going to work for. That was option 3. Or 2. And then the third one was almost like, oh, well, just good luck. I've been laid off before and you could do it too. Again, I appreciate all those things, but where I started to realize was I had to really throw out and almost ignore everybody else's sentiments. I didn't feel like those things that they were telling me. I knew that I was smart. I knew that I am, and I was talented and skilled, or else I would have been let go. So I knew all those things, but hearing them in the moment that I'm angry or in denial wasn't great. Oh, actually, the third thing, I actually had a 4th thing that was actually told to me. Well, hurry up and start applying. Update your LinkedIn, update your resume, get your name out there. Apply. That was probably the 4th thing that I heard because of people being laid off before they realized that, as they looked back, that they kind of sunk into maybe a depression or sadness or denial, and they didn't hit the iron while it was hot. So they were trying to give me their experience, which I totally appreciated. But again, I had to stop listening to people. I had to figure out my own voice. So I really hope that I didn't come off like I wasn't listening to people, but I had to kind of close them off, listen to myself. Those things that they were saying, that I was skilled, that I'm talented, that I'm of value, I had to internalize those things and then hear them from my voice. I loved hearing it from other people. I love hearing that other people recognize my value, but I needed to start recognizing my own. So that's probably one of the first ways that I chose myself being laid off is, your voice matters. How you see yourself matters. I cannot tack on people's opinions, confidence, vision that they have for me onto myself. I have to listen to myself. What do I want? How do I see myself? How do I want to see myself? And start to go from there. And that was really hard. It's still really hard. I'm not talking from a place on this podcast as I've got it figured out. I think I said it in my introduction episode. I'm figuring it out. I'm taking it day by day. This is, again, not me talking 20 years later, reflecting. I'm in it. My confidence is bruised all the time. Well, not all the time, but it happens a lot that my confidence is bruised. I may come from mile high and then 2 moments later or 2 days later or 2 weeks later, whatever the time period may be, I'm back at square one again, having to pick myself up from the floor. Having to big myself up, re-encourage myself and say that I'm worth it. That I wasn't rejected because I was laid off, that I was set up. And because I'm not where I want to be, I kind of have to speak that into existence. Again, I'm not a year, 2 years plus looking back on this experience. I'm in it. So I kind of have to prophesy the gold at the end of the rainbow. I'm still in the fog. I'm still in the rainforest. So I'm trying to figure it out. So that's just one of the first ways that I chose me. Another way that I chose me is, again, love people, but I had a lot of people sending me job ideas. Hey, what about this job? What about that job? What about this? What about this? A lot of people telling me about jobs. And if you live in America, you know that in August, people were still getting additional pay, unemployment pay because of COVID. And that really incentivized a lot of people to decide to stay home. Why work if I make more money or the same money being unemployed and staying home? Why put my family at risk working and possibly getting COVID? Why spend that extra time and effort, right? So there's a lot of jobs out there and people were just throwing ideas. How about this? What about this? Hey, this job makes... I've had people even give me jobs that made 80% less than I made. Just because they were like, I just want you to have a job. Really sweet. I appreciate it. But I had to really figure out what I wanted. What is that next step? What do I value more than money? Because I could have just chased another job where I made 6 figures. Sure, easy, could do that. But now that I'm out of it, and now that I was leaving it, what was important to me? And that, again, I had to choose myself. What were the things that made me feel stuck? It wasn't necessarily the money. That's an element of it. But there was cultural things that were going on that made me feel stuck. And so a couple of things that I knew for myself to be true. The next company I worked for, I wanted it to be something that fueled my passion and my value set. Again, I worked for healthcare, so I felt like my last job really aligned with that. I was helping people who helped people. And I wanted to continue down that road. I wanted to work for a company that helped people, that progressed people. Okay, got that. Check. That's one of the things that this next step has to fulfill. The other one is I wanted to work for a strong leader. I wanted to not just work for a manager. I didn't want to just work for somebody who could fulfill the role of a leader or a manager or a supervisor or a director. I wanted to work for somebody who inspired and encouraged and developed and grew their team. And so that became really important to me. How do I vet my next potential leader? If I have to report to somebody, how do I make sure that that person is not just going to go, oh, I'm here for a job, and so do your job. No, I wanted somebody who was a little bit more transformational than that. Somebody who was a little bit more vulnerable than that. Somebody who was a little bit more insightful than that. And I didn't know exactly who and what that leader would look like, but that was really important for me. Man or woman, work for somebody who didn't just want the paycheck, who their job aligned with their values and goal sets, and somebody that encourages their team. That was important. Third thing that was really important to me. Yes, we work in COVID times, and so many industries are working from home, but I didn't want to do that. In addition to wanting to work for a strong leader or with a strong leader, I wanted to work with a strong department, a strong team of people, a team of people that encouraged each other, that worked on projects together, that had no ego when it came to things, and just got the job done where it needed to be done. I wanted to work with a team that was physically together. And if we couldn't be physically together all the time because of COVID, for a short period of time we have to work from home, that's fine. But for the most part, I didn't want to work remote. And God bless my sister. She was sending me so many jobs of places that were working remote. Yeah, maybe temporarily, but I didn't want to go into a job working remotely. I had spent the last 6 years of my career basically working as a remote person and of a department of 20 plus. At one point, we had like 40 people, and I felt alone. I felt by myself. I felt like if I failed today, nobody would care. Or if there was great successes down the road, it wouldn't really matter to me because I'm so isolated. If I had a bad day, I couldn't express that with somebody who knew what this job looked like. As well, if somebody else had a bad day and there were people I could reach out to, we couldn't relate because we just had different experiences. And that created a lot of conflict. And I did not want to work for a team that was like that. I wanted to work for a team, albeit very traditional and old school. I wanted to work with a team that came together daily, figured out a game plan. Everybody knew their job, but everybody knew that if they needed help, they could look to the left and the right to get things done. As well as very silly, I had birthdays. I had, things that went really well. And I had nobody to celebrate those things with. And I saw people who had office friends or a team or a department that worked together, and they had birthday celebrations. They had baby shower celebrations. They had going away because you're getting married celebrations and little bachelorette and bachelor parties for people at work. I couldn't have any of that because nobody I worked with, nobody in my department I saw. So only reason why they would know it's my birthday. At one point, we had a lady work for us, and she really stayed on top of everybody's birthday. And so she'd pass a card around and make everybody sign it, and everybody would gripe and groan after the first or after the second or third year. Oh my God, another card, So I'm sure once I got my card, how wonderful I felt. If I know people was griping about signing Susie Q's card, I'm sure they're super excited to sign mine, right? So that might sound really silly and small, but I wanted that. And I don't think people intentionally try to make me feel bad for my wants that I just laid out, but they kind of did. They kind of made me feel like those wants weren't significant. That what was more significant is pay. And I could have fallen into a trap and agreed with them, right? I could have just said, nope, you're right. I should apply for this insurance job because they make good money. Or I should apply for this consultant job because I'm doing a consultant job right now because there's good money. And yeah, it says I travel 80% of the time, but whatever. I guess I'll apply. That's probably another thing that I decided I knew I didn't want. I didn't want to commute anymore. I drove about an hour and 15 to 20 minutes to work every day. So that was about 3 hours in the car every day. And I didn't go in every day because of COVID. I went in maybe 2 to 3 times a week. But pre-COVID, I was going in about 4 times a week, if not 5. So I just told myself, no more commuting. I don't want to do it. If it's over a 30-minute drive, I don't really want to do it. I was tired of driving. I was tired of being in the car. I was tired of coming home exhausted and being super just not energized because I drove so long. I was tired of realizing that my commute home had now extended by 30-40 minutes because of an accident every day. Tired of it. So I decided commuting's not going to be in my future. I don't want to do it. Are there jobs out there that I can make the same, if not more, and commute an hour and a half, even 2 hours away? Sure. I don't want to do it. I seen my mother commute 4 hours a day, and that's on a good day, 4 hours a day for a long time to a job that also laid her off. Not going to do it. I'd rather, again, because I don't have kids, and I don't have huge responsibilities, I can decide to cut things out of my life that make sense so that I can have the life that I want. And I encourage everybody to do that, even if you have kids. What's important to you? My mom made that sacrifice for a long time. I don't know if she would do it again. She also loved that job, so that makes a difference. But if you don't love that job and you're realizing you're driving a huge fraction of your day, you have to ask yourself why. And I think it's interesting because of COVID that we're realizing jobs really could be remote, that don't really have to be you don't have to physically be present. And all of a sudden, because of COVID, companies have figured out virtual presence. That should have been from the get-go, from the start. So I would just say, if you're tired of commuting, why? And it's almost kind of like second nature, assumed in California that you're going to commute, especially in Northern California. It's just assumed you're going to commute. And I just don't want to. I don't want to drive. I hate driving. I don't even want to drive 15 minutes. But yeah, I definitely don't want to drive more than 30, 40 minutes to work. No way. So like I said, that's probably another way that I chose to listen to myself, is to figure out, what do I want? Everybody has their vision for me. Everybody wants me to remain full as far as salary, and they want me to, giving me jobs and sending me job postings is the way that they're showing that they care about me. But what do I want? Listening to what I want and choosing myself first, and I'm choosing my joy. I'm choosing, and I could learn in a year or two from now and realizing that I didn't make the great choices here, and I could have pivoted left instead of right, but they're my choices. I think it would feel worse if I looked back years from now and I'm not happy because I listened to other people. Because I can't blame anybody else. I can only blame myself. So I might as well listen to myself. Okay. So another way that I chose myself in this situation, I think I've talked about the fact that I could have stayed working for the company that I got laid off from. There was a lot of opportunities for me to do that. I don't know if it was anger. I don't know if it was because I was mad at the company, but on that last day, like I said, that I got to acceptance, I just said, I can't come back. I can't come back right now. Maybe not for a while, but I need to move on. I need to prove to myself that I can move on. I need to make sure that I can build myself up apart from this machine, because this machine kind of started to feel culty in a way. Maybe it's not culty. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it is culty, and cult's not a bad thing, right? Cult following, people have cult followings on shows, they have cult followings on brands, they have cult followings on all kind of things. I started to feel like I was having this cult following with this company because I'd been with that company for 9 years, and the 9 years before that I volunteered for that company for a year. So I had 10 years of experiencing this ecosystem, and I just felt, although I didn't feel developed, encouraged, challenged, and extremely happy, I knew how to work in it. I knew the dynamics, I knew the players, I knew the politics, and that's better than the unknown. So, like I said, once I got to acceptance, I had to make a decision. Okay, this is it. You can come back to this company after a while, maybe a year, maybe 2, but let's get it out of your system for now. Start applying to other places. And I did. I applied for other healthcare organizations, educational institutions. I applied for the city that I live in different places. I applied all kinds of places, not even really sure would they fulfill me on a value set level, but it was directionally correct, and I could figure out if it could fulfill me in a value moral sense in the interview and in the research of that company, if that's what it came to be. But yeah, I had to just make sure you're not coming back. Let that go. Do not hold on to the fact that you're just going to come back to your safe space, because guess what? Although the pot is metaphorical and it's in your mind, there's something to be said about you being in the same environment and still trying to grow. Is it possible? Sure. But the interesting thing about the human brain is there's bias confirmation. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but bias confirmation is like you think you know something about something or someone. I always like to say, let's just talk about a person. The slacker in your department, the slacker in your class, the slacker at the company that you volunteer for example. The one that just comes in, he's late, she's late, they're late, they're barely participating, they're barely present, whatever. And maybe one day they decide they want to turn a new leaf. It's a New Year's resolution. They're not going to show up late ever. Well, what happens is nobody really recognizes that. And then the next day that they're late, people hold their feet to the fire. Jimmy, you're always late. Why are you always late? And Jimmy could say, oh, I had a New Year's resolution for the last 6 months. I've been on time every time. But today my car, I had car problems. Oh, that's not true, Jimmy. You're always late. Our brains are wired to confirm the biases about people and things, situations that we already know. Our brains are really lazy. They're not trying to see the differences in things. And how you know that? You see those sentences that are spelled completely wrong or the words are jumbled. Our brain still can read the sentiment of that sentence. Why? Our brains are lazy. We're really not reading. We're almost pulling from a mental map, a memory of what that word may mean. We're not really reading, because that's how we skip typos. That's how we skip all kinds of things in sentences, or we skip, You ask a guy, do you like what I did? Could you notice anything different about me? Mental map wise, he recognized how you look like in a summary of what you look like. He doesn't realize the small details of your face, the small details of your hair until you point it out. Oh, your hair is different. Oh yeah, sure. I noticed that. So, yeah, we just have all these we just confirm all these biases, right? And so that's one of the things I had to realize is I could be planted in the same company, but really not growing because I'm really just confirming the biases that I already have. I really would just go, okay, I'm not really gonna, yeah, I'm gonna grow this year, and then realize I'm in the same spot. Something is to be said if your environment looks the same. That's why people, I think, encourage you to update your decor, that's why planners are really good. If you've never used planners, is because planners are a way of creating a different environment to create structure, right? It's an environment of structure. But if you just said, I'm going to make sure I'm more structured and I get stuff done, if you don't change anything about what you're doing today, how are you going to know that you've done that? So some people, it may not be a planner. Some people, it might be a simple to-do list. Some people, it might be putting something in an app. I don't know. But you need something to help you build new behaviors. And I truly believe that working for that same company was not going to really encourage me to create different behaviors. It really wasn't going to encourage me to keep growing. And again, I reserve the right to look back on this time and not regret, but realize that I could have made different decisions. But I just had to. And I think I had to accept the fact that I wasn't going to come back, because if I kept being in limbo, I couldn't continue to make changes on myself and progress forward if I had my foot in two canoes, in the future and in the past. I don't know if you guys heard that analogy. You got two feet in different canoes and they're going different directions. At some point you're going to get split or you're going to fall. I had to just choose to put both feet in one canoe. And that was going to the future and letting that past go. It may not be forever, but it'll be for a while. I'm thinking at least a year, Yeah. Let's see. What other ways did I choose myself? I think I took as long as I needed to clean out my desk. We talked about cleaning out my desk, right? I took a long time to clean out my desk. I know some people that didn't clean out their desk. They just left everything. They had no personal artifacts. They just left it. And I was like, how can you not clean out your desk? You're going to leave that mess for somebody else. But in that, now that I'm here in my acceptance and in my journey, I realized that was probably their way of choosing themselves. Why go through that crap when I can't bring it with me? I got boxes of crap that I kept because I'm very sentimental. Will I ever look at it? Probably not. And in 6 months, I'll probably trash it. But to me, because I am sentimental, choosing myself was taking my time, going through my office, picking what was that I wanted, files that, I had files on there that were personal, that I wanted to print out. I had projects that I had worked on, that, I wanted to make sure people had the originals too. So, I spent the last month not really taking on a bunch of new work, but really taking the time to sift through the things that I had a hand on, the physical and electronic things that I had, and chose to just make sure that they were in the right spot. And it gave me a lot of peace to do that. It may not have made sense to other people that I would do that, but it made sense to me. And I wanted to leave the desk area ready for somebody to come in, ready for a new person to take on that office space, and they didn't have all my stuff to go through. I still left some stuff that was the company's, but it wasn't a bunch of my crap. And that meant a lot to me, to make sure that that space was ready for the next person, because I sure of hell would have wanted the opposite for me. So let's see, what else? Oh, last but not least, choosing myself meant that I had to stop listening to negative people. I think that's a really good one to end on. We all know people that are super negative. We all know people that have a woe is me, or even people that are very blunt, but their bluntness is very negative. They're kind of just angry at the world. Love them. But as I am going through this process, I've realized I cannot be around them. I cannot spend my time uplifting them while I'm drowning. And I've spoken about this in past episodes, that I knew people that got laid off that were in that space. And I gladly was able to talk to somebody recently, and it sounds like they're not in that negative headspace anymore, which is awesome. I love that for them. I don't want anybody to stay in a negative headspace for long, because I know, even being in it in a moment, what that feels like. But I had to be honest, and that negativity was rubbing off on me. And I started, when I was around those people, I was starting to talk shit. I was starting to go down and be negative right with them. But I wanted to rise to the occasion. It's not toxic positivity. I just needed to force myself to see the good in people, the good in the situation. Even if I wasn't sure what it was, I wanted to believe that it was there. And some people just were not there. They didn't want to see the good. They wanted to be mad. And I totally get it. I was there when I was in anger. But I was starting to curve to that acceptance. And I had to fight for my acceptance of acceptance. And by doing that meant I had to close off to the people that were still angry, the people that were still in denial, the people that were still blaming. I had to close myself off from them. All the way to people that maybe have a very negative mindset about life, period, that weren't part of the group that got laid off. I know some people that just have a very woe is me personality, period. I can't be around that energy. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're one of them, I'm sorry. I had to fight for myself. I might talk about in future episodes how far those dark thoughts went. I won't choose to go down that road right now. But those thoughts got really dark. And being around you made them darker. They didn't make them lighter. I think it's because, I don't know if I'm an empath or whatever it is, but I kind of think that I am an empath. I take on people's energies when I talk to them. I take on their problems. I take on their joy. I take it on. Like I actually feel myself absorbing it. So if you're negative, I'm starting to feel negative. If you're positive, all of a sudden I'm super upbeat. And I truly believe that I can do that for other people too. Or maybe it's just energy. Maybe it's just humans. We do that for each other. I don't know. Maybe we don't need to give people a title of empath. Maybe it's just that we're emotionally intelligent and we're energy. It's energy exchange. But whatever you call it, I could feel myself drowning more when I talk to those people, or I feel lifted up. And in a moment where you're thinking very dark thoughts about yourself and your life, I chose not to be around the people that drew me down. I chose to spend more time with people that lifted me up. That's one of the last ways that at least come to mind right now, that I chose myself. I chose my joy. I chose my future. Although it may be unknown and fuzzy and unclear, I chose to own the fact, and people don't like the word to manifest, but I chose to put the steps and put the behaviors in place that I could reap the benefits of down the road. And I don't believe negative thinking does anything for you. Anger, blame, whatever. I don't think it serves you in the long term. It may serve you in a short term just to get it out, because you have to get it out. But in the long term, you don't get anything back. And so for me to be around that meant I was kind of being unproductive with my time. And I just chose not to do that anymore. So that's all that comes to mind so far, folks. Thanks for listening to another episode of Rootbound, the podcast not about plants. I really appreciate you guys, your feedback, your positivity, your love. If you guys have not followed my Instagram page, it is rootbound _ podcast on Instagram. Rootbound, the podcast not about plants, is also on YouTube. It's wherever you're listening to me now. You'll continue to get episodes every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I hope that you guys are safe. I hope that you guys are happy. I hope that you guys are thriving. And if you're not, take a moment. Think about why you're not and start to make small steps. If it's going to therapy, if it's walking every day, if it's having a hard conversation with somebody just to get it over with, if it's, I don't know, starting a diet, I don't know what it is. You know what it is. You've probably been telling yourself to do it for weeks now, for months now, for years now. Do it. Make a small change. And if there's a comment section, leave me a comment. Let me know what is a small practice that you're doing to choose yourself in the change that you're facing. I'm really curious to see that, because it could be something I could start doing, or the rest of the community can start doing. It might be something that we're not even aware is a possibility. All right, guys. I'll see you in the next episode. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.